Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Smalley. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid Services at the Coordinating Board. Thank you so much for joining me today on August 11th. I know that things are in full swing at the institutions, and so I truly appreciate that people were able to join and go through some of these topics with us. With students returning either virtually or in person, I know that there's a lot going on. So I will do my best to get through all of this information and still leave some time at the end for questions. If you've joined us before, you will know that sometimes with working virtually, we do have some technical things that go on. So hopefully you will hear me throughout the presentation. If not, this is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and listen to it at a later point. Please make sure that your microphones are muted so that we don't have that extra background noise. If you have questions as we're going through, you can go ahead and type those into the chat box, and we do have Deshay Reed on. She'll be able to answer those questions for you. And then at the very end, if we have any remaining, I can go through those. So let's get started. Like I said, we have a lot to go through today. So let's look at our agenda. So what's new? Today's going to focus really around things that are coming, things that we've sent out, really getting you up to speed on the Welcome to the 2021 award year. As you know, we are starting not only the fall term, but we're also starting our state fiscal year here soon. So we want to go through that with you. Bilingual Education program had an update. So for the schools that were impacted, we're going to be going through that. We also released a deaf and blind exemption fact sheet. So I'm going to briefly go through the location of that and how you can share that information to those at your school that may use that exemption. We also have a new FAQ that was posted on our COVID page, our coronavirus page on the agency site. So I'm going to show you that. And then lastly, we'll be going through a variety of updates, reminders, some training opportunities, and then some upcoming deadlines. So let's get started. So welcome to 2021. Every year we tend to send out kind of a welcome flyer, and we include a whole bunch of information in there. And we really don't know how many people that reaches, but what we do know is that this webcast reaches a lot of people. So we decided that this year we'd give a lot of those updates during our monthly webcast, and then all of our notifications are posted online for you to access there as well. So I will be going through how to get information later on in this presentation. So let's talk about, as the fiscal year begins, what to expect. A few things that have either changed or things that you want to get familiar with, especially if you're new. So the first thing is our student financial aid web page updates. Many of you may be familiar with this website. We use it to post pretty much everything that we send out, any forms, applications, or instructions. And we're making some modifications, and we're doing that because we've gotten feedback over the years that it's not always intuitive, and people struggle to find information sometimes. So a few of the things that we're going to change, I'm going to go through screen by screen, but one of those is our online resources. We created this page originally to house all of our different forms and our portal information, but it was kind of a standalone page that people often struggle to find because they're looking at information on other pages. So what we've decided to do is to incorporate the online resources into our main program pages. So as you can see on this screen, we have our just our main program resources. All of the online resources are going to be incorporated into the ones that make the most sense. And we're also going to be utilizing the right-hand banner to also post things like portals, forms, that kind of thing. Another thing that we're doing on each of the program pages is that we're going to be incorporating in a summary of each page. So for example, Texas Grant now has an introduction to where the statute is located and the program rules associated with that. Before, it was just a bulleted list, and so it didn't really give any insight or any additional information. So we thought that this would be useful, especially, again, to newer folks. So for each of the grant programs, you'll see that the introductions are there, and on each page that has a program, we're adding those one by one. So while you may not see it right away, over the course of the next few weeks, you are going to see changes to a lot of these pages. And then another example that I mentioned a moment ago, over here in yellow, you'll notice that the portals and some of the forms are incorporated into the right-hand banner. So now when you visit the main grant page, you don't have to toggle over to online resources to find things. They should just be woven into the individual pages. Another thing that we're looking to change is the webcast page. So right now it's located under the Stay Connected. You will still be able to find it there, the archives, but it's actually going to be housed under our learning resources. Originally, these webcasts were really to fill a gap in information, but over the last year, it's really become a learning and training outlet for people. So we thought it more appropriate to put under our learning resources, and we're going to continue to build to that library over the next year. So as you get more familiar with this updated page, you'll want to visit it to see what else we post. And as always, we always notify the schools when we create something new. The other change that is being made is the Work Study Student Mentorship Program. Right now, there's a dedicated page under institutional grant opportunities. And a few days ago, we put a notification that this page, all the information has been moved to our SFAP page. So the new page is located under Work Study and Scholarships. And as of August 31st, that other dedicated page will be removed. So if you have this program at your school and your program director is not on this call, you'll want to let them know that that's going to be moving. Because as you know, whenever you're trying to find a website and something's moved, it can be very frustrating. Like, where did that go? So we did put a 2-week notice up there so that people understand that it's been moved, but this is where it's housed now. Another thing to be mindful of is that the program rules for mentorship actually was moved. It was moved from Chapter 4 to Chapter 22. That was something that was done many months ago, and we were waiting for those changes to be finalized, and they've gone through the Texas Register, and on the Texas Administrative Code, you will now find the rules under the Texas College Work Study umbrella. So that's a pretty big change. And so within the description here, it has been updated. So again, please let your program director know about that change as well. And then lastly, for work study student mentorship, we added some of the resources that are included within the guidelines, such as some templates, a sample MOU. These were only housed within the guidelines previously, and so we decided that to make them more accessible for the schools, we would add them to this section as well. Like I said a moment ago, as you navigate through these pages, please be patient where you might see something one day and then the next minute it moved. For the most part, we have these mapped out, but because of software limitations and everything else, as you know, things change. And so we want to give that heads up so that as things move around, you're prepared. But ultimately, in the next few months, everything should be settled and in place. All right, let's move forward. Our institutional calendar is something that we produce annually, and then most recently we decided to issue out them based on fall, spring, and summer. So right now our fall calendar is being drafted. We're still trying to tack down a few last deadlines before we release that, but please keep in mind that deadlines sometimes have to shift either because of other things like pandemics that come up, out of the blue. So we kind of request that, we're going to release that with the understanding that we may need to shift some things depending on our circumstances. So once this is available, we will be posting it to our Student Financial Aid Program's Stay Connected page. You'll see down here we have a calendar of program deadlines. It's broken down by that fall, spring, summer. And so the new fall 2020, once it's available, it will be posted here. All right, so let's move forward. So one of the big things that happens when the new year starts is you start asking for money. So I wanted to go through that a little bit, either for new folks or even if you're a seasoned person. It gets a little confusing if you have multiple state programs through your institution because they have different ways of actually asking for that money. So I wanted to just go through that with everyone one-on-one. So our 3 grant programs use a CB Pass portal, and we call it the grant payment portal. And I'm going to show you a picture of that in just a minute and just remind you of the steps. So when you're asking for grant funding, it goes through CB Pass. When you ask for Cal and TASP, it's going to go through our HelmNet or our Common Line file process. The Bilingual Education program and our Educational Aid program both use a PDF funds request form process. Again, these 2 programs are not as utilized as the other 2, so if you participate in these programs, I'll walk through the process for you. And then lastly, Texas College Work Study, those that have opted in and received funding, we pay that out in a lump sum payment at this point, so you don't have to request anything. We will send that to you automatically. So let's look at them a little bit closer. The grant payment system, again, for the Texas Grant, TEOG, and TEG programs, you'll log in through CB Pass and you click on the grant payment application. And then when that pops up, there's a a requesting funds tab at the very top of the screen. And it couldn't be simpler. You add the amount that you need, the students that you're requesting those for, and you hit submit. That's all there is to it. Once you submit that request, it comes to the coordinating board where we do a process where we approve that, and then we will send you the money associated with those students. The Cal and TASP certifications are done in a different manner. Schools can either do that through a common line file by logging in to move it, or they may have an automated process that picks up those files from your system. Or a lot of schools do a manual certification process through HelmNet. So if you're doing that, then you'll log in and enter all the information for the students that you have available. So those are the options to get your Cal and your TASP funds. The funds request form that I mentioned a moment ago, the PDF, we have it for 2 programs right now. We have Educational Aid Program, and then we have Bilingual Education. Both of these, you fill out a PDF fillable form, and then you hit submit, and what it does is it attaches it to an email that gets routed to the coordinating board for processing. One of the things that we thought would be helpful this year is we incorporated in some instructions within the form. So all you have to do is click on the link, and it will launch an instruction sheet that will walk you through step by step on how to complete this form. All of these will be saved on that Student Financial Aid Programs webpage I just talked about, and they will be located under the program resource page. All right, so moving on. So you may be wondering, well, I just heard a lot of stuff about access to HelmNet and CB Pass and move it. How in the world do I get access to that if I'm new? Well, over the years, we have had a lot of different, I'll say a lot of feedback on the form that we currently have out there. And, with having multiple portals, it's always a challenge to figure out how do we best incorporate all of them into one form and communicate it clearly to all people. So over the past few months, we've been working with our data sub-collection committee to engage them in some feedback on this form. And we did route them our updated version and got some good feedback from them. So coming soon, we'll be launching a new form. It looks very similar to how it did before, but we did make some modifications that we think will be beneficial to your school. So a couple of the things that you're going to see are that we changed the name of the form because really it's user access. The email box that we use and the terminology we use is user access. So it previously was going to be called System Authorization Form, and it's now going to be called User Access to Web Portals Form. It must be completed by the Director of Financial Aid or someone even in a higher position, but at a minimum, the director. Another thing that we added was a checkbox for the new director. So a lot of times, we have someone who starts and they need to understand how to get access to something. So one of the important things to understand is if you're a new director and you check this box, it's going to automatically trigger us to reset your Move It password. And the reason we're doing that is because Move It is one login for each institution. If a director has left your school, you need a new password to ensure security because Move It is a web-based portal. We don't want people to leave or to change areas and still have access to all that student information. So by checking this box, you will be then issued a new Move It password automatically. The next thing that you're going to notice is the layout of the form. Each one of the sections was updated with some more clear instructions on how to fill it out, and just the overall flow of the document has changed. So now in section 1, we've moved Move It to the top, and I'm going to go through this form one by one as a live demo in just a moment. Section 2 is to request or update HelmNet access. And then section 3 is to remove HelmNet or CBPass access. So let's take a look at the form. I'm going to exit out of the presentation and actually pull up the new user access form, and we're going to go through it together because I want you to be able to see it. Okay. So real quick, I'm going to toggle over just to confirm y'all can see my screen still. You can see the Skype box. Perfect. Okay, so here's the new user access to web portals form. In the introduction, we just have a purpose. So for newer folks, they can understand which portals exist and what they do. And then this requirement section is explaining that it's critical to not only maintain these users, but that you're only giving access to the people that truly need it because you're giving them access to student-sensitive data. So as you fill out the form as a new director or as an existing director, you're acknowledging each time that you're checking this and that you're making sure that only the people that need access have that access. So I've already done a little bit of legwork here just for time purposes, but I've entered in my ABC University here, my FICE code, my name, phone number, my title, and my email. One of the things about this new box is that this is going to autofill our Move It section below, and I'll show you in just a moment. Again, this is the box that I mentioned if you're a new director. If this is marked and your information does confirm that you're new or you're an interim director, we will be issuing out that new Move It password. As you scroll through the document, this authorization pops up saying that you're certifying that you're going to implement the procedures correctly. So this is your certification statement. This is actually where this e-signature is located. And I'm going to go ahead and click on it because I'm pretending I'm filling it out. And it's going to say, are you sure? And I say yes. And I'm going to sign the document. And save. Yes. It should go ahead and adhere that to there. And then I'm going to select this and mark the box. So as you walk through it, you can fill in each of the sections as needed. So section 1 is covering Move It DMZ. Most of the time, you will not need to fill anything on this out. This is truly to communicate changes in your designees. Again, if you're a new director, then we'll be updating our system that you're the authorized person and we'll be issuing out that new password that I've mentioned. If you want to change your designees, you're going to enter their information in here and it will then override anyone that we have as these two designees in our database. Now, please keep in mind, you don't have to have two designees. You can just have one. But the purpose of a designee is so that if the director is out or if they're not available, this person has the ability to reset or to get the password to Move It in the event they need it. So we did that so that when people are out of the office, you're not stuck either locked out of the system or you need that access. So Move It is by far one of the most confusing pieces of our user access process. So I understand if you do have questions, please send those in to us. If you're curious on who are your designees, maybe you're a new director, you can send a request through our Contact Us. through financial aid questions as your contact reason, and we will send you who we have on file as your designees. Moving on to the requesting or updating HelmNet access. 9 times out of 10, you're simply going to be requesting a new user. Again, we request that you only add people that need access to HelmNet. So I'm going to pretend that I'm adding someone new, and this is a FA advisor, and John Doe at abc.edu. Okay, and then another example is if you need to update something. What we find on the update is that either a job title has changed or someone's name has changed, either due to marriage or something like that. So if you're going to change your name, you would fill in these boxes and go ahead and add the prior information down below. And that way we know what is being changed and why. So you'll just select that box here and fill it in. Moving to the third section is the removal of access to HelmNet or CB Pass. So this is where you'll have multiple options to select things. So for example, if someone has left your institution, that's when you'll need to remove them. Maybe they moved departments. Maybe they just don't need access anymore. You're going to select the applicable fields here, fill in the information, and then you'll need to provide a reason. So for this one, I'm going to say that we need GPP and HelmNet. So we're going to say that's Leah Smith at abc.edu. No longer employed. And that's all there is to that section. So you can go ahead and enter as many in here as needed. In the event you need additional lines, you'll need to create another form and submit that. We're working on a way to make this expandable, but as of right now, it's still the old process. You'll just have to add those lines to a new form if you need it. Lastly is submitting the form. Once you're done, I've already e-signed it, I filled it in completely. You're going to either do one of two things. You're going to use this submit button, or you're going to save it, and then you're going to have to attach it to an email and send it to our user access box. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to do the submit button, and we're going to hope that it cooperates. So what happened is this pops up and it asks me, do you want to use your default account? And I'm going to say yes. Okay, so what it did is it attached my e-signed and completed form to my email. It automatically populated the user access email address here. So all I need to do now is hit send, and it's going to get routed to the coordinating board for processing. Once we receive it, we will review the form thoroughly, we'll update our systems, and then we will email you to let you know that it's been processed, and we'll issue out the credentials for the person that's being assigned or needs access. If someone's being removed, then we'll simply remove it and they will be deactivated. So that is the process. I understand there may be questions, so feel free to go ahead and type those in. And like I said, Deshay may be able to assist for the moment. Otherwise, I can circle back at the end. So you may be wondering, well, when is this form going to be available? So we are in the final stages of getting the form updated, and once it is posted, we will send out a notification letting schools know that they need to use this new form. So in the interim, you'll use the current user access form, and then we'll get that new one posted. So moving forward, so let's talk about bilingual education. Bilingual education only affects 7 schools, so if you're not one of the 7 schools, you'll just learn. The guidelines have been updated. We sent that out about a week ago, and we wanted to communicate a clarification that we received from the Attorney General. Sometimes we get questions that are beyond our ability to provide guidance, and therefore we have to send it up. And one of the questions that we were receiving was whether or not a practice exam was sufficient to meet the eligibility criteria for an individual in this program. We did route that up, and a response was issued on July 14th, and that was updated in our program guidelines. And it does confirm that a practice exam is not sufficient to meet the eligibility criteria. So a student does have to pass the actual certification exam in order to receive these funds. The guidelines were updated and the opinion is now embedded within the document. So if you have questions on how that affects your school, you can reach out to us, but those are up on the website, and the notification was sent out on August the 3rd. Moving on to deaf or blind student exemption. I like to say that we are making really good progress with our exemption and waiver programs. 6 to 8 months ago, we had next to no resources available for exemption and waivers, and we're slowly chipping away and issuing out more and more guidance and resources associated with these. And this is our latest one. So on August the 6th, we sent out a new fact sheet, and it's posted on our website. So if you work with your registrar or maybe your admissions team, or potentially if you do it in financial aid, we wanted to make sure that people know that this is available. So please share with your counterparts. As my 2-year-old always tells mommy, sharing is caring, mommy. You need to share. So please pass this information along so that the folks that do exemptions can have a copy. The fact sheet is saved under the exemption and waiver page. You can see that link there. And we're going to go through it very briefly. So this is what it looks like. It's a 1-page fact sheet. We released another one previously for the foster care programs, and we will continue to create fact sheets for programs that we get a high volume of questions surrounding. On this fact sheet, you'll notice that it has different sections within it on the left-hand side, but the part that I feel is even more helpful is understanding the facts and then understanding the process. These were created so that you understand really what is the nitty-gritty of this exemption program and then the overall process behind it. What I have found interesting as I learned about exemption programs is sometimes these are actually determined by other agencies or entities outside of the coordinating board and outside of the institution. So this is one of those programs where a student has to seek a certification letter from an agency such as Texas Workforce Commission or the Texas Health and Human Services. So I think that that's helpful because it kind of takes some of the burden off the institution to try and dig through all these statutes and understand all the terms and conditions of this program. Again, this fact sheet tries to drill in on what do you need to know and how do you administer this program. So if you have questions and you have a student who may qualify, or maybe even in your personal situation you have questions, please reach out to us and we can either help you or we can get you over to one of these agencies that does the evaluation. And then lastly, I wanted to mention when this was sent out. It was sent out on August 6th. So we sent out a notification via our listserv. All right. Oh, and then the link. There's the link. So if you need the direct link to the fact sheet, it'll be there. All right, moving on to COVID-19, we have a new FAQ that was released, and so we wanted to make sure that people know that they're still coming through and getting approved and being posted. You can either access our coronavirus webpage either directly through the main agency page, or you can go through our student financial aid programs. On the right-hand banner, you'll notice that we have a box that says coronavirus, and then there's a link to our frequently asked questions. And this is going to take you directly to the tuition, refunds, and financial aid questions. You'll notice here that the newest one is related to Texas grant. We've received questions about, how to determine eligibility with everything going on, and so this one is directly impacted by high school transcripts. So if you are a Texas grant institution and you have had this situation come up where you're wondering how to handle students that may not have their official transcript, or you've already funded that student, this is a really good one for you to revisit to make sure that you're following the statute and the administrative code. And this provides some additional guidance on that. All right. This is where we get into the fun stuff, all the updates and reminders and training and deadlines. So one of the hot topics always is allocations, and the 2021 allocations are still being finalized. We will be sending out official notice when those are available. Those will be sent through our GovDelivery listserv notification, and I'll be going through that in just a moment. So as of today, that's all the information that I have. So please keep a lookout for that. We will get those out as soon as we possibly can. Another update is last month I did a training on HelmNet online reporting, and we did release that, and that was released on August 3rd. The instructions are posted online, and if you have HelmNet access, you should now be able to see that link within the system, and you can now run your own reports. I am working on a dedicated training for that, so I will send that out once it's available. We have a variety of things coming up I'll talk to you in the training section, but at a minimum, you can now go out and run your own reports and not rely on the coordinating board to do those for you anymore. So we're really thrilled. It was a big, huge project that we're excited it's finally come to fruition. Another thing that went out on August 4th was the announcement of the TASP award. The 2021 amount is going to be $10,000. The deadline for the legislators to make the appointments is August 31st, which is coming up. The student will have until October 15th to complete their TASP application online, but that does require that the institution initiate the application first. So the student is going to bring you their nomination letter. You'll go into the HelmNet system to generate a certification, which will then allow the student to apply. If you have questions specific to TASP, please let us know by sending a contact us. We know that this is a complicated program, but it is a huge benefit. We want to make sure that we get all the details out to you if you have a student that qualifies. Pre-disbursement changes in HelmNet, currently unavailable. We sent out a notice on July 28th. We have a variety of upgrades going on, and one of these unfortunately disabled our pre-disbursement changes option. They are working to correct that, and we will notify schools as soon as it's available. What we requested in that notice was that you send those changes to us, and we will make those for you in the interim. We know it's an inconvenience, but unfortunately that's the nature of updating a software system. Sometimes things they stop working properly. And I'm going to go through contact us in just a moment on some of these pre-disbursement changes. Another reminder is that academic holds for the coordinating board, state loan programs and scholarship programs was discontinued for delinquent borrowers back in November. We've received a few inquiries asking about that from students saying that they've been placed on an academic hold. And so we just wanted to clarify that that was discontinued and our program rules were actually updated in December. And so that's no longer a requirement. So if a student is delinquent with the coordinating board, they should not be placed on an academic hold. Keep in mind though, if they are delinquent, that will prevent them from reapplying for a new loan. So you'll want to advise the student of that piece. But you will be able to enforce any internal policies you have on academic holds. This is strictly related to the coordinating board holds that we used to issue out by sending a file of delinquent borrowers to the schools. And lastly, on our update section, this year's annual net price calculator, we are in the final stages of rolling that out. We plan to get that out on September 1st, if not sooner. And we will release the instructions and exactly what you'll need to do to complete net price. But we have gotten questions in and wanted to clarify it is coming, but because of college student budget information and our normal programming time frame, it had to be extended out. All right, training. My favorite thing is training, teaching people all about fun things. So next month's webcast is on September 15th, and I wanted to draw attention to that because I always say it's the second Tuesday of the month, but this one is actually the third Tuesday. So mark your calendar for that. It will be on our institutional calendar, but if people are used to joining, I didn't want them to be thrown off. Another exciting thing that we're looking at rolling out in October is a training series. And for 3 months, what we're going to be doing is a dedicated training to a specific topic instead of these broad monthly webcasts. Usually in the holiday months, we don't have as much activity going on as we do throughout the year. So this is going to give us an opportunity to look at certain things that people have requested. So a few topics that we have, they're proposed, they're not set in stone right now, but we're thinking about doing a new hire walkthrough. We've heard that that would be helpful. How do you get set up? What are the different websites? What do we need to know about state aid? So we're looking at that one. Another is our annual user access process. I just went through the form itself, but each year we do a big user access kind of security check, and we may be doing a full-on training for that. Another one is state loan processing. We get questions all the time about packaging college access loan and how to determine eligibility, how to certify a student, how to look up reports. There's a lot of questions in relation to our loan programs that people ask about. So we're looking at creating an exclusive state loan processing training. And then lastly, state campus-based report. Every year, this is one of those reports that we send out, and we get a lot of questions on how to fill it out, primarily because it's a joint effort between business office or your accounting folks and financial aid. And so it could be difficult to all be on the same page on how to fill that out. So we thought it'd be helpful to have a dedicated session on that one. Now, if you have ideas or you feel like something would be more useful to your institution, we're taking topic ideas at this point, and you can do that through the webcast survey that I will announce at the end of this presentation. So please send that through so that we can collect those ideas and then determine which ones we'll be able to offer. We are planning to still host them at the same time, so they'll still be on the Tuesday at 2. And I'll send out the dates. It'll be included on our institutional calendar. But again, it's just really going to be more for just specific ideas versus a lot of different topics that only relate to certain schools. So lastly, we're going to talk about deadlines. We have the financial aid database cycle 2 deadline is coming up in the next 2 weeks on August 28th. So hopefully everyone is moving right along and clearing their student level errors. As a reminder, the reconciliation process for the state programs is not required for cycle 2, but you still do have to validate and clear all your student level errors. Another reminder on FADS is that FADS drives your award history file. So if you're trying to package and confirm eligibility for your fall term, this is just a friendly reminder that the way that that tool works is it pulls from validated data. So if you haven't submitted yours, or if you're trying to look up a student and it seems like it's outdated, it's because it's only as good as the information we have. And so it's going to pull whatever is in our database. If you have a student who's transferring to your school, what we've always recommended is that you reach out to the prior school just to confirm eligibility because of the timing of it. Unfortunately, if you're packaging a student for fall and you're waiting on all this data to come into the system, it may just not align well, and you're going to be waiting a long time for that information. So it may be faster to contact the prior school just to find out if they received those funds and kind of where they're at eligibility wise. The last thing I wanted to talk about on deadlines, this happens every year. The comptroller for year-end processing shuts down. And so they will be shut down the last few days of August and then through September 1st. But what that means for schools who process college access loan is that the students must complete their loan acceptance disclosure by this Thursday in order to receive the funds before the shutdown. If that's not completed, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to move those funds through the system in enough time to get them to the institution, but you will receive them after it opens back up. So we hit this webcast right on time because August 13th is a blink away. So if you have these students, you can use your online reporting to go look those up and see, which ones are still out there and contact those students to get them through the process. All right, we're at the end. If you've joined this before, you know that this is my mini lecture for everyone on how to get in touch with us. And I say a lecture because we're still, after many, many months, we're still getting people submitting inquiries that get routed all over the agency. And understandably, it's a very confusing menu. There's a lot of options. So if you're new to the webcast, this is going to be great because I'm going to walk you through it. If you're old to the webcast, remember what I told you? Sharing is caring. Tell your colleagues, tell everyone else if it's related to financial aid services and it has anything to do with processing, eligibility, loan requests, anything like that. It has to go through financial aid question. Even if another contact reason makes more sense, it will get delayed because it's going to get routed to another area. So I will also point out that we're getting a lot of loan cancellation requests, which naturally happens at the beginning of the year when students decide they don't want to take out a loan or maybe they don't need a loan. So we're getting a lot of individual requests in. So I'm asking that you communicate this to your loan person, or if you're the person that's submitting these, if you can consolidate those into one request or multiple students within one, that would be very helpful to get those processed more timely. We're getting them kind of one by one. And while that's fine, it definitely slows the process down. So. And then the last thing on this slide that I did not mention was our phone lines. Unfortunately, they are still not available. We have been working to get those up and running because we're working virtually. We just don't have that available at this time. As soon as it's up and running, you'll be notified and you can call us and chat, and we'll be so happy to hear from you. So let's talk about filling out this contact us. Again, it's very important to put the institution in here and then to physically type in the institution name. The way that we issue these out is based on not only institution type, but the type of request that's coming through. Like I mentioned, the most critical piece of this submission is that you put financial aid question. No matter what the reason, if it's directly tied to financial aid, it needs to come through our area. The last thing is the description. The more thorough, the better. And like I said, you can consolidate certain requests like loan processing requests into one so that we can process that all at once. And then once you're done, you hit submit. It instantaneously comes to our area if you do financial aid question. Again, I ask for sympathy and mercy during this crazy time because we are getting a lot of inquiries in because it's the start of school. So please be patient with us. We are trying so hard to get through them. But we not only get questions from the institution, we get public inquiries as well. So we get lots of families and people that need assistance with answering state financial aid questions. They all get filtered through our area. So that's just my simple request. Please be patient as we get through those during this not only busy time, but very strange time with COVID. All right, the last part is I talked a lot about notifications, and we sent out a memo, and we sent out a flyer, and we sent out a fact sheet. You may be wondering if you're new, well, I don't get those things. How do I sign up for that? We have a listserv on our website on our Stay Connected page, and what it does is it launches a form that you fill out. Again, sharing is caring. That's going to be my new thing. It's going to be all over the place. If you know someone who needs to be included on this, make sure that they fill this out and get it into us. Once we receive it, we'll look to see what job title they have and where they should be put into, because we have a variety of topics that we use to send out notices. But this is the form that would need to be submitted, and then once you subscribe, we'll get you set up and then email you to let you know that you're set up. Once that's set up, you should immediately start receiving all of the notices that we sent out. Now, in the event that you miss something or you want to know about something that's been posted, you'll notice right above it in the screenshot that there's a recent communication section. We go back and post all of the memos and the flyers and everything that we send out to this page. So even if you miss it, you can look to see what's been coming out. So keep that in mind. But that is the end, I believe. I went through everything so fast so that we had time to talk. But here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions that you want to ask about my webcast. I can't drive home, contact us more though, because there's times where I will be out of the office and I don't want a response to get delayed. So if it's uber specific to something I went through that you need to ask me, feel free to do it directly. Otherwise, if it's more general or if it's eligibility related, please send it through contact us so we can get it out to our staff and so they can help resolve whatever question or issue you have. And then the webcast survey I mentioned a moment ago, this helps me know how I'm doing. It also helps collect ideas on future webcasts. It's only a few questions long and I really do read them. We pull it all the time, we look at it. So if you have a few minutes, that's very helpful. I can't get better if I don't hear from you. So that is all I have. I am going to be exiting out of the presentation just to see if there's any last questions. If you've been typing them, hopefully Deshay's had an opportunity to get through those. But I'm going to see what we have going on in here. Let's see. All right. I see lots of activity in this box. And I'll just reach out. Deshay, are all the questions answered or do I have a few that I need to circle back on? I think she's probably typing. Oh, there's my picture. I was thinking that in future ones, it would be cool to have a video or, you could see me talking, but I feel like having everyone up would be a little bit much. So, all right, Deshay said that we don't have any that we need to circle back on, but I will ask if you have any remaining questions. We have 10 minutes. I was honestly anticipating this was going to be the entire hour, so I must have gone through it very quickly. Very proud of myself. All right, so if you don't have questions, what do? You send it through Contact Us. Or you can email me directly. All right, well, again, I appreciate y'all joining. I wish y'all the best of luck with your start of school. I know that, it's a very busy time for the schools, and we just truly appreciate everything you do for the students and how well y'all work with us as a team. And so we will see you next month for the final monthly webcast, and then we'll get information out on any future topics for the dedicated webcast. So have a wonderful week, everyone. Thank you again for joining and have a great day.